we don't even really want to be fast for 100 feet. We want to be fast for like 5.
All right,
Sure.
so how did you get started in coaching? What made you want to coach, and then go through just kind of like your history of your first coaching experience to now.
So I kind of got into coaching accidentally, really.
What?
I didn't really have a whole lot of aspirations to be a coach when I was like an athlete.
Okay.
And it basically so I started at lacrosse and Buck Oltz was my teammate. And then when I transferred to Stout, um, his brother was my teammate. And so Josh and I were still stayed pretty close just because his brother and I were buddies.
Right.
And then when I got done competing, Josh got the head job at Stout and he
Oh,
was coach.
wow.
I still had another year of school left and I was still around. And so I just started helping him coach the jumpers. And
Yeah.
then they hired Sean McMahon to be the full-time assistant.
Okay.
Well, Sean and I were teammates at lacrosse as well. So
Yeah.
I just kept on as basically Sean's assistant jumps coach.
Nice.
And so 7 years of coaching at Stout, then Buckles got the job down at lacrosse and wanted me to, come move down there and coach the jumpers down there. So I found a full-time job in lacrosse and coached with them for 6 years there. And I mean, so I knew right away after I started coaching at Stout that I, wanted to keep coaching as long as it was going to work out with,
Right.
whatever job I had. But
Yeah.
I never, even then, I wasn't really planning on being a full time coach. It was fun to do, and
Yeah.
it worked out with the job I had. And then as I got at lacrosse, and I sort of was like, this would be awesome to do full time. And lacrosse didn't have a full time job for me, and
Hmm.
I basically got sick of working so that I could coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's how I ended up at Wartburg when the job got open. When I saw the job here, I was like, I had known Coach Newsom from just, competing against Wartburg athletes and whatever for the whole time I was coaching at Stout and at lacrosse. And,
Right.
and it just kind of worked itself out really well that, I mean, I love being a full-time coach, but
Yeah.
that wasn't the plan. It just sort of evolved into the plan once I, kind of got my feet wet coaching.
Yeah. It's crazy how that works out in life. Like a lot of times things end up totally different than what we had planned or thought or
I mean, I went to school to be a social worker. That's what I thought I'd be doing.
wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, it just sort of evolved into being a full time coach. And I mean, I'm glad it did because I love it. And
For sure.
I mean,
Did
most of
you
the time, it doesn't even feel like I'm like going to a job. Like I get to go do track stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that's awesome. So did you do social work then while you were uh coaching at lacrosse?
so in Menominee, I worked at a day treatment center for adults with developmental disabilities.
Okay.
That was my full time job, but it was a 7 to 3
Oh,
every
perfect.
day. So the hours were perfect to be able to get done work at 3 and go to practice.
Right.
And then when I moved to lacrosse, I managed an assisted living home for adults with developmental disabilities
Ah,
through
okay.
the same company that I worked for in lacrosse. Or in Menominee, they had places in lacrosse. So I actually basically just transferred
Oh, okay.
to lacrosse. Um, and then I ended up working for the parenting place doing birth to 3 service coordinator.
Okay.
So it was working with kids age birth to 3 that needed some kind of a service, whether it was like speech therapy or occupational therapy
Hmm.
or whatever. And so I basically helped get them connected to whatever service they needed through the county.
Okay.
So, I
Gotcha.
mean, I kind of did that, not necessarily as a social worker, but I was doing social work type
Right. Yep.
jobs
Helping people.
until I decided that I just wanted to coach. So,
Yeah. Wow. And so I'm assuming you enjoy coaching more than that work.
I mean, I really liked that work.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, to me, nothing compares to coaching. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I love track. I love working with people, and
Yep.
I mean, like I said a little bit ago, it's like I don't have a job some days. I just get
Yeah.
to go in and like do track stuff, work with
That's,
athletes who want to be good, and
yep.
like it's just fun.
That's too cool. I feel like that's probably, oh, I guess there probably aren't a lot of paid high school coaches. Do you know of any? Like maybe at
Not like
like
a
the
full
big
time.
academies or whatever.
I mean, maybe, but most of them are teachers, and the coaching is extra, or they're
Yeah.
like you who work, just have you live there, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's what most high school coaches I think are. I don't know of many like full time,
Right.
like
Yeah.
just coaches.
I can't imagine a track program brings in enough money to pay a full-time
Right.
coach, especially in a, an event specific rather than like a head coach or whatever. But
Yep.
anyway, all right. So how many years have you been coaching total?
So this is my 19th. I was at Stout for
Whoa.
7, lacrosse for 6, and then this is my 6th year here.
6 year here. Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
Long time. It's gone fast.
Yeah. So since you said that you didn't necessarily, you accidentally got into coaching over your 19 years, have there been other coaches, whether at higher levels or at the same level, that you've kind of like looked to for like learning your own philosophy in coaching, or have you just kind of developed it like organically from your
um,
19
I
years?
mean, a lot of it was what I did as an athlete. That was kind of the start of it.
Sure.
Um, and that would have, I mean, my number one mentor in coaching is Evan Perkins.
Okay.
He's currently the women's jumps coach at Winona State. Um,
Oh
he
yeah, I
was
know. Yeah.
he was an athlete at lacrosse. He was a 50-foot triple jumper national champ.
Nice.
He was the coach at lacrosse that coached like Schrader and Ajmu and Martins and all those guys.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Wow.
so he's kind of the original guy who built the jumps tradition at lacrosse.
Yeah.
Um, when I was in high school, I went to a track camp at lacrosse for jumps, and he was the coach there, so he was like the lead person.
Yeah.
So I learned a ton from him as an athlete, and then I mean, him and I still talk. I would say at least once or twice a month, and we just, in the summer we'll get together and grill out and have a couple beers and just kind of talk shop. And
Yeah.
so he kind of built the foundation of the program that I still use.
Yep.
That's just kind of the general training philosophy stuff.
Right.
A lot of this, drills, but obviously in 19 years, I've changed a lot of things.
Sure. I would hope so.
I mean, you were part of when we used to run like some 200s and stuff in practice. I don't do any of that anymore.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I've sort of kind of realized I'm training athletes to run like 100 feet.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of 40s, 60s, 80s.
Yep.
I mean, really don't hardly do anything over 100 meters ever
Right.
with
Wow.
my jumpers because I'm not training them to run that far.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be fast. We don't even really want to be fast for 100 feet. We want to be fast for like 5 at the end of the runway.
Ooh. That's a good line. That's a good one right there.
I mean, you got to be fast coming down the runway, but I want you at full speed for the last, 3 steps of that approach is the most important part of it. So there's things like that have changed. I've really decreased the volume, but really upped the intensity of everything.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. Baby's crying. I was afraid this would happen because he's like right in that room. I'll cut this out of the interview anyway, but hold on. Do you mind if we take like a 2-minute break? I'm gonna go get the monitor just so that I can see him, and then water, and then we'll just blend this in easily.
Yeah, you're good. I'm gonna go grab my water too.
Perfect. Sounds good.
A few moments later.
All right.
Got dad duties under control.
Yeah. Of course, the only night that Kinnan is gone with friends, he wakes up. Like normally he's really good about like sleeping through, but then tonight, of course not. So I think I had asked if there were any other coaches that had influenced your kind of coaching philosophy, or if it was organic, and and you had said a little bit of both. Perkins was one, and then just having 19 years of experience. Yeah,
I mean, there's been others. Obviously,
sure.
Josh Buckholz. I mean, was my head coach for the first 13 years. I was a jumps coach, and just from general head coach and like leadership things that he had, and then Coach Newsom's a good leader, and just you always pick up things along the way.
Right.
But definitely, I mean, Evan Perkins was the guy that I've probably learned the most from, and the guy that I continue to use as a resource for sure.
Awesome. You still talk to him?
Yeah, we still talk fairly regularly. So
awesome. Oh, okay, cool. Do you guys ever have meets with Winona? I'm guessing not, but
they've come to indoor meets at our place a couple times.
Okay.
Obviously this year with like conference only schedule and stuff like that, it
sure.
didn't happen, but
yeah,
they have come down a couple times.
Okay, gotcha.
I always hang out with them at like the Minnesota and the Wisconsin state meets because we're always both there recruiting and stuff. So.
Oh, okay, nice. That's cool.
Usually recruiting the same kids.
That sucks. Have you experienced that often? Like what would that be called? Competition in like recruiting? And is it?
Yeah, I mean, we run into a lot of the same. I mean, when you're recruiting good kids, you're going to run into the same good coaching, good programs that are interested in those same kids. So, I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, we run into a lot of, the YX schools, the MyX schools, because we're all after the same type of, student athlete.
Makes sense. Yeah. So on average, how much time, I don't know if it would be in a day or in a week or in a month, do you spend writing training plans or like workouts?
I mean, in season, not a lot, to be honest.
Okay.
We'll make tweaks throughout the season here and there, but I mean, most of my kind of plan for the season happens kind of over the summer.
Okay.
And obviously the season never goes perfperfectly. So you write this plan, and the plan is hopeful on everybody, staying healthy, and there's a million factors that factor into the plan not holding throughout the year, just because I mean, I have like 30 some athletes between the both genders and all 4 jumping events right now.
Yeah.
And you have a general plan that I put together over the summer. And I mean, the basic of that plan hasn't changed a lot in 19 years.
Okay.
As far as kind of the general plan. And then, you add more specific things in here and there.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to roll with how the season's going.
For sure.
You get to a point with jumpers and they're a little bit beat up, and now it's like, okay, normally we do a technique on Tuesday and Thursday, and maybe a couple weeks we throw pool workouts in there on Thursday just because we can still get some plyo stuff done and they can kind of get a recovery day. So there's tweaking things throughout. It's hard to put a number on how much planning goes into it, but
probably go ahead.
I think it's been less planning over the years and more just I've been doing it a while, so it's kind of just adapting as you go, more than kind of like really sitting down and like completely changing the plan. And I mean, I think what I've been doing has kind of been working. I mean, I don't want to I haven't made any like really big. The biggest, I would say, change I made would probably be from midway through your career, where we were running more volume early, and I've kind of gotten away from a lot of the volume running for the jumpers. And doing a lot more short stuff. That's been the biggest, I guess, fundamental change in my training plan. And that was probably, I don't know, 8-10 years ago now, probably 8 years ago. And that was a big change because I noticed right away kind of an overall health of the athletes going up because we weren't doing all of that volume pounding. Much more higher intensity, but way less volume,
Yeah.
more recovery, things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, that's probably the other big thing is recovery is a big word that gets thrown around a lot, but
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing I've changed is doing a lot more recovery work with the jumpers.
Okay.
Doing more pool days, doing heel toe walks, giving them time in practice to make sure they have 15 minutes to roll out.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The band stretching stuff that we started doing when you were, at lacrosse, I
Oh,
still
man.
do that with the jumpers.
That was so helpful.
And just making sure that that's built into our warm up and our end of practice routine so that they have time to get that stuff done.
Yeah.
Because I know they're college kids, they're busy, they got all sorts of stuff going on
Yep.
that I don't want to ask them to do that on their own later.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to make sure they have time in our 90-minute 2-hour practice window, whatever the day is, to get that stuff done in
Absolutely.
practice, so when they get out of practice they can be a student or
Have
work a
life.
job or
Yeah.
whatever they got to do.
Yep.
So
No,
that'd
that's
be the
really okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Would you say that it would be easier or harder to change your general philosophy after 19 years, or do you think it doesn't matter? Like, because you if in order to change, you probably have to test, over a couple seasons, if what you're changing to is working, and so like that could screw up. You basically have to like pick a couple years of athletes to like experiment on.
Yeah. I guess the answer would be it could be easier and it could be harder.
Sure.
When I made that volume change, it was due to talking to a buddy of mine who runs a performance center up in the Twin Cities.
Okay.
And we were talking, he trains a lot of people, like he'll train a lot of people specific for like the NFL combine.
Okay.
So like he's training them to be fast for a 40-yard dash.
Yep.
And so just talking with him about that training, because that's kind of what I want to do as a jump coach.
Yeah.
Not necessarily quite 40 yards, but
Sure.
I mean, you're getting closer to that, like 100. I mean, most runways are between 85 and 120 feet, depending on the athlete. And
yep.
So talking with him a lot about how he was training people to be fast in a 40-yard dash kind of got me to thinking, well, I should be doing something more like that.
Similar, yeah.
And he had been doing it for a couple of years, so he kind of had his own, I guess, guinea pigs or test subject group.
Yeah.
And it was working for him, so it wasn't like I was throwing in a philosophy that was new.
Just completely out of the blue, yeah.
It was, I had talked with him and he had sort of kind of worked through it on his side and kind of helped me implement it on my side.
Right.
So it was a big philosophy change for me, but it wasn't like I was just taking a shot in the dark on, is this going to work?
Right.
He had already kind of showed that it was going to work.
Yeah. Yep.
I was more so, I guess, stealing it from him. I mean, we talked it through, but coaching's a lot about kind of more so stealing ideas.
Yeah.
Go to, their coaching convention and talk with, I've talked with Boo Schnecksader and
wow, yeah.
Todd Lane and all these guys who are thought of as like the best jumps coaches out there. And they're more than willing to like tell you what they do.
Yeah. Yep.
And you just kind of, oh, I like that idea, or or a lot of, sometimes it's really fun when they tell you that, they do this thing and you're like, oh, I do that too. It's really cool. Like it's reassuring. So, I mean, I think that's a big thing in the difference with coaching track than coaching a lot of other sports.
Mm-hmm.
I think like a basketball coach or a football coach would be much more secretive to like their defensive plan stuff.
Yep.
Where track coaches, it's more about like who you have than what you're doing.
Wow. Yeah.
Especially when you talk to the Division I coaches, they talk a lot more about, well, it's more about like the athlete. The recruiting piece of it for them is a lot more important than like somebody else can have the same exact training plan, but they just want to get the better athlete.
Yeah, yeah.
Where at D3, we're not quite like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm much more about developing kids,
Right.
and using, a lot of that same stuff. But I mean, from what I've found with the track coaches that I've interacted with, there's a lot of just kind of borrowing ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty wide open. I've never talked to a track coach that was like, I'm not going to tell you that, like not wanting to
Right.
like share what they're doing.
Right.
So from that standpoint, it's really nice when we go to these conventions and people have an hour-long symposium and they're just basically laying out, this is what we
Right.
do. And if
Yeah.
you want to take stuff from it, go ahead. And, it's not like a secret.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot of just kind of stealing. Mostly for me, it's been like stealing drills, like seeing
Okay. Right.
drills and like, oh, like that's something that we should try.
Right.
But I would say over 19 years, the basic of what I've been doing has not changed a lot.
Right. Well,
And
because go.
it's the same type of stuff. Like Evan Perkins was doing it at lacrosse in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And then I was doing it at lacrosse in the, mid 2000s, and I'm still doing it now. And
Right.
there's tweaks to it with drills and things like that, but the general format hasn't really changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, my buddy Sean McMahon likes to say, and I think it's a great line, is he's had athletes that have sort of like questioned the workout, because he does a similar thing, because he kind of learned from Perk as well. And then I coached with
Sure.
Sean, and he likes to tell his athletes, I'm not going to guarantee you that this program works for you, but it's worked for everyone who's ever done it.
Nice. Love it.
And in some fashion, I think he's right. Like,
Yeah.
obviously there's been some that it hasn't, but I know he's used that line, and I kind of think it's a funny line to use, but it kind of applies.
Mm-hmm. I think it's probably true about most training philosophies. Like there probably are some that are actually bad for you, but like as long as you're like semi-consistent doing like drills or whatever to improve the different areas of the long and triple jump, like you're gonna get better. Like as long as you're doing them, and like you said, like incorporating that recovery and staying healthy. I feel like for the most part, any kind of training could work. But as I'm saying that,
I agree there too, but I think the big thing is just a lot of the student athletes that I've coached come from a high school where there wasn't really any structure.
Sure.
Some of them are very lucky and have great high school coaches.
Yeah.
Some come from a program where they never really had a jumps coach or whatever.
Yep.
I think just getting into a system where they have a structure and they're doing things they never did in high school from a drill standpoint or whatever. And so of course they're going to get better because they're finally like working on specific parts of the jump. And a lot of them have never had that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have. I mean, there's great high school coaches out there, but there's not a lot of like jump specific high school coaches out there.
Do you prefer having a kid who comes in kind of like well versed in the technical stuff and then you can kind of just work on top of that, or do you prefer having someone who's like completely green and you build them from zero? Or both?
I kind of like both at times.
For different reasons.
Sometimes I like to recruit you go watch somebody compete and they're putting up big marks, but they don't look very good doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can fix some of these things, and now they're going to go really far.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you can go and maybe they're really good technically, and they're putting up good marks, and it's like, I don't know if their ceiling's as high.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they already are doing things right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. A lot of it is, they're going to come in and get on a much better strength program. They're going to get stronger, so you're going to get faster. It's kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I just want somebody who loves what they're doing and wants to come in and work hard.
Wow.
Ability level doesn't even really matter at that point.
Yep.
I want talented kids. Of course, every coach does, but I want someone who just wants to come in and work hard and is going to just put in the work and have fun doing it. And that person's going to get better no matter what their ability is.
That's amazing.
And if they have a ton of ability and they have that mindset, they're going to end up being really good.
Yep. I feel like that's the beauty of coaching too, though, is like you said, it's kind of like every athlete's a puzzle and you just kind of have to figure out like that's the art side of it. Cause there's the science or whatever, which is like, hasn't changed since track and field started, basically. Yep. We've learned some things over that time about, how the muscles work and how recovery and all that stuff. But like the art of it is like what you were just saying, is like getting to know the athlete and working with them to help.
I mean, that's my favorite part of coaching, is just that relationship building.
Yeah.
I mean, you build a relationship with an athlete, and then now they trust what you're doing. They trust what you're telling them. I mean, it's just that rapport. And I mean, obviously, you and I started as coach athlete, and now we're talking as like friends, and just talking about the jumps. And it's not necessarily a coach athlete relationship anymore. Now it's we're just we're still talking about stuff. So those are that's the stuff that I just love about track, is all of the former athletes that I still am like regularly in contact with.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
That's crazy. Cause I feel like you got to go through a whole bunch of them each year. Like you're getting new people that you meet, and like the amount of people and have, built into their life has got to just be tough to manage.
19 years, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. But and obviously there's some I'm, in contact with more than others, but it's just fun. Like I love going to like a Wisconsin state track meet, and you run into like all of these kids I used to coach or coach against that are now high school coaches, or they're like a parent and they're, or whatever. And it's just kind of cool to run into people and you're like, oh man, I remember coaching you 20 years ago, or watching you coaching against you or whatever. So
that is crazy to think. 19 years, you could have coached somebody or coached against somebody who has a kid now who's in high school, or potentially even getting close to college.
I have some former athletes who have kids in high school from my first couple of years.
Wow.
Granted, my first year coaching was my first year out of eligibility. Okay. So I was coaching people who were my teammates the year before.
Yeah. Wow.
Which was kind of crazy. That was kind of a weird transition at times.
For sure.
Because I kind of went from being like their buddy and like going to the bars with them one year, and then the next year I was like their coach.
Yeah.
So that was a little interesting the first year. Obviously that hasn't been an issue the longer I've been coaching.
Yeah.
But literally that first year it was like people who I was like hanging out with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a little different.
That's hilarious. Because you probably felt like a student, but you had to act like a coach.
Right. And I was still a student. Like I had my first year.
You're still finishing.
My first year coaching was my last year of college. So
yeah, that would have been real strange then.
So that was a little different.
Cool. All right. So over your 19 years, what are the most common faults that you have incoming freshmen or athletes, I guess, whatever age, have that you have to correct year after year?
The biggest one, triple jump wise, is no second phase.
Phase.
That's a huge thing in the triple jump for sure.
It's like the thing.
Yeah, right. That's like the number one thing for sure. But I would say that the other thing I've noticed is a lot of like you can tell if they had like an old school coach. Mm. Like in the long jump, if you have a jumper who comes in and they're doing like the C curve, or, things like that. It's like, well, they had a coach who learned that a long time ago.
Right.
So like trying to break some of those things that we now know through all sorts of, exercise science and things like that, like that's not the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. So trying to break some of those habits, I would say C curve's a big one, because there's a lot of older high school coaches that's the way they coach it.
Yep.
I would say the penultimate step is a big one.
Interesting.
Kind of, I mean, a lot of people think that penultimate step is like a big time lowering of the hips,
The key,
where you're almost like putting the brakes on and trying to coach kids out of that to, run through the board and keep your hips high. And those are the big ones that, and somebody has coached them into that. They didn't just do it on their own.
Yep.
A lot of it is just trying to break some habits that they've just been coached into. But definitely the second phase of the triple jump, and I would say the takeoff part of the long jump are the big ones.
So what is one thing or a couple things that you do to try to get them to have a second phase then? Like what are some of the key points that you've developed over the years?
I mean, we just do a lot of the bounding drills. It's amazing to me how many kids can get through like high school and not know how to bound.
Yeah.
Even like somebody who's a triple jumper.
Yep.
So I mean, we do the mat drill progression. Skips and bounds and single leg cycles and all of that stuff we do every single jump day. I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that you did that I had you kind of doing.
Right. Yep. This is for the masses. Like
it's
most
just
of your philosophy, but
it's just really breaking things down and doing. I mean, we do the single leg cycles, then we do bounding, and then we do the cycle bounds. And we do them a lot.
You call them cycle bounds now instead of right, left.
I changed the way I call them that because kids understood what I wanted them to do better by calling them cycle bounds.
Dude, it's interesting.
Left, right.
Yeah. So when I came to Spash to coach, and I was telling them like, yeah, we do this drill called right, left, and they're like, what? You mean like cycle bounds? And I'm like, cycle bounds? Like, who calls it that? But I guess it does really make sense. Like,
so,
it's just a cycle.
That's one that I've changed the name of.
Yeah.
Because they understand it better.
Yeah.
So I used to call them single leg hops. Now I call them single leg cycles.
Okay.
And then we do bounds, and then we do cycle bounds.
Nice. Okay.
So just the way I had to say it differently for them to like understand what it was.
Yeah.
And now looking back, it makes way more sense to me to say it that way.
Yeah.
Than the way I said it for years.
Yeah.
So just really repping those types of things. And then we do, I do ones. So they basically just do a first phase. Then we do 1-2s. So they do a first and second.
You do a first phase and just run out of it?
Yep.
Okay.
Or we do them like right on the edge of the pit. So they just do a cycle and land
into the sand. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Do 1-2s. I've stopped doing 2-3s.
Oh, for what reason?
I just don't think it helped. I think they were because the bound part of it wasn't their focus.
Yeah.
As much, and their focus was more on getting to the third phase, and I wanted the focus. So now I just do a lot more 1-2s and have them really focus on the second phase of it.
Yeah. Yep.
And then instead of doing the 2-3s, we just skip it and we go right to doing like a short approach full jump.
Oh, okay. Nice.
To kind of put it in there. I also do a lot of it on the mat where we don't even go into the sand. Just to kind of have them work on those transitions more without even worrying about a landing.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of them always focus on like the end of the jump.
Yep.
If we do it on the mat, there is no end of the jump.
Yeah.
So they're focused more on the first phase, the second phase, because the third phase is the least important one. It's whatever you got left.
Right.
You got to get as high as you can and finish.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the first two, the third phase doesn't really matter anyway.
Yep. 100%.
So we focus way more on the first two phases than anything, and then the transitions between them, because we want them to have whatever they can have left at that third phase.
Right.
That's probably one thing I've changed a lot over 19 years. I used to focus a lot more on the third phase, and now I don't nearly as much.
Right. Cool.
Because you got to get there.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's the approach is the most important thing. Then the first phase, then the second phase, and then the third phase is just whatever you got left.
Yep. And most people can figure out a third phase because it's like you're just long jumping basically
Right.
at that
And
point.
it's the first two are the awkward movement.
Yeah, yeah,
Like all of them have long jumped, and that's basically what the third phase is. You just
yeah.
so we don't focus on it nearly as much.
Huh. That's cool. Very interesting. Okay. So then do you have any drills that you do now to help with them running off the board in the long jump?
The biggest thing I do, um, as far as running off the board, is it's in approach work. I just constantly move them up.
Oh, nice.
Um, like they can literally be perfect on the board,
Yep.
and the next one I move them up a half a shoe, so that
Yes.
they're constantly
Pushing.
working those last three steps shorter and quicker,
Oh man.
and moving those hips past the board.
That honestly, that was like one of the keys that helped me mentally that you would always do to me. You'd be like, move up. And I was like, I'm going to scratch. And you're like, no, I want you to learn how to get your foot down under your hips.
Yep.
And then just like pushing that board and making it more uncomfortable. I just feel like it got me better and better at hitting the board.
So I'm actually really working with one of my female jumpers right now who has that's a big issue. And so we've been just constantly moving her up. And
Okay.
And I just, tell them like, we got to get you to the point where it's really uncomfortable.
Yep.
And then we'll ease you back and find that happy medium place.
Yeah.
But I mean, and it was really hard for her to understand. Like at a meet, she would foul and I would move her up.
Yeah.
She'd be like,
the heck's going on?
Like, well, you fouled because you were super long and you settled your hips and got even longer.
Right.
Like, I want to move you up so that you continually keep those steps really fast and keep your hips high all the way through the board.
Mm.
She's starting to get it, and so hopefully it's going to pay off outdoors.
Sweet, yeah.
But I mean, I try to do that with all of them, and they all, at first, they they kind of try to fight you because they're like,
sure,
Coach, I just fouled, and now you're moving me up. And
yeah.
Because they're used to high school. I mean, they just back them up.
And every jump, back up.
So, I mean, I don't back people up very often. I mean, even if they foul, I don't like to back them up very often.
Nice, yeah.
I mean, maybe a big meet when it's like the opening jump of the competition and we want to kind of get one in and then we can get aggressive. But
yeah,
otherwise, we're pushing the edge all the time.
Awesome, yeah.
Jumpers foul. Like, they don't like to foul, and I try to get them like comfortable. Like, it's okay to foul.
Right, because you're never gonna hit your big jumps unless you're comfortable with fouling.
Yep. So I mean, it's the younger ones really kind of fight that because they want to mark every jump and they want to PR every week. And
yeah. So
getting them to kind of understand that the first few meets we're gonna work on things. And
yep.
So I mean, that's what's fun for me is just kind of getting those athletes to buy into that and making them a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They're also used to being comfortable.
Okay, yeah.
They're just used to being comfortable. They're used to not fouling and I like to make them uncomfortable.
That's a money takeaway right there, I think.
Because if you think about it, you as a jumper or me as a jumper back in the day, like you do the same thing all the time. And then when you do finally hit the right position, as jumpers, we tend to panic the first time because it feels different.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's uncomfortable, or all of a sudden I got really high and I didn't know what to do and I over rotated and I had a huge jump, but I bailed on it.
Yep.
Well, if I make them uncomfortable all the time, when that happens, they don't panic and they can actually finish those big jumps.
Yep.
Rather than being like, oh, it didn't feel right.
Right.
I want things, not all the time. Like I want them to feel right, too. But at times I like them to not feel right so that when they don't feel right, they don't panic and they can still finish big jumps.
Yep, for sure. Big time. Yeah, I remember you were preaching that to us all the time. All right. So in long and triple jump, there's kind of like the four main parts. You got the runway, the takeoff, and then the flight phases, depending long or triple, and then the landing. So how much time do you spend on each of those 4 parts throughout the season? And like, is it weighted? Like, do you spend more time on runway versus landing versus the phases and the actual technique in the air? What's your breakdown for that?
I definitely spend the most time on the approach.
Nice.
I think the approach in all 4 jumping events is without a doubt the most important thing.
Okay.
Because if your hips aren't in the right spot at the board, it doesn't really matter.
It's all gone.
I mean, some people are talented enough to get by and to overcome it and still jump well.
Sure.
But if you want to have that optimal jump, like the approach is by far the most important thing. You have to have the right hip placement to get the best jump, whatever jumping event you're talking about.
Right.
And then I would say we probably do landing probably second.
Oh, okay.
Because for me, the approach and takeoff kind of go together for me.
Sure.
Because when we do our approaches, we're popping off.
Okay.
So
every time?
Every time.
Okay. Nice.
So we're doing the approach and the kind of the takeoff at the same time. So the takeoff gets a ton of work because we're doing approaches constantly.
Okay.
And if their hips are in the right spot, the takeoff kind of takes care of itself too if you have the right approach and they're running through the board.
True.
So those two kind of go together for me.
Yep.
So I don't really even hardly separate those.
Okay.
I mean, we do a few just takeoff specific drills, just working on like posture and things like that without any speed.
Yep.
And then, I mean, the landing's a big thing. You have so many kids who want to like land straight up and get them to like extend out. And there's a ton of things we do for that. A lot of time we'll land on the high jump mats so that they just land on their butt with their feet extended just to get used to that position.
Yeah.
Then you got to get them working on when those heels hit and they're pulling through.
Right.
But I would say runway and then the takeoff together and then the landing. The in-air stuff, I don't focus on nearly as much.
Yeah.
I'm mainly focused on their posture. Okay. And if they come off the ground with their hips underneath them and their chest tall, the in-air kind of takes care of itself too.
Yeah.
And then we focus on, that finish at the end.
Nice.
But we do everything we do and talk about posture, the mat drills, everything. So when they come off, they're tall and that in-air sort of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's certain athletes that the in-air is really kind of a mess and we have to kind of break them down, to fix some things there.
Remember the little flutter kick?
Yeah, but some of that stuff you kind of you figure that out with each individual athlete.
Sure. Yeah.
That's where the individualized stuff comes in. I mean, I have a general practice plan each day, but not everybody does the same number of reps of each thing.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, that's interesting.
Like in a triple jump day, if we're doing 1s, 1-2s, and short approaches, I might have somebody whose first phase needs work. They do more 1s and 1-2s than full jumps.
Okay.
We're all going to do the same drills, but they're not always going to do the same number of drills.
Yeah.
Because they don't all need to work on the same things.
Yep.
Some of them have really good second phases, and so we don't focus as much. And so they'll still do those drills because it's not going to hurt them, but kind of fine-tuned different ones will do different number of drills and stuff like that.
That makes sense. I think that's a good thing.
That's a thing I kind of changed. I didn't do that a lot when I was coaching you guys.
Okay. We all just kind of did
kind of always did, 3, 4, 5 of whichever drill. And so now I've kind of tweaked that a little bit to different jumpers with different amounts of drills. Okay. Plus some jumpers can handle doing like 4 or 5 of everything. Yeah. And some, maybe they got bad shins. So we just do like 1 or 2 of everything and they still get a good workout in and we don't beat them up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a major, like a thing that a good coach needs to have is like that ability to assess each athlete and be able to tailor the workout to that athlete.
And like, we'll do technique is typically Tuesday, Thursday, and I might on a Thursday send, 5 of them into the pool, but not all of them into the pool.
Yeah.
I got, some that are having shin issues or whatever, and so they need to go to the pool. And
Right.
you just have there's athletes that just never get hurt, and there's some that are hurt all the time, and there's everything in the middle.
Spud. Yeah.
So you have those athletes that are like never hurt, but you still kind of want to monitor what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I might do two technique days with somebody like that in a week. Because they feel better, and maybe that second day is super light, but rather than send them in the pool, we still do some stuff
Get
on the
something
ground.
productive. Yeah, that's interesting. So I had a girl my first year who I just had everybody do a 6-step runway, and like she just wasn't getting it, and I could tell she was kind of like slowing up at the board. And I was like, I feel like I should shorten her runway, and so she did like a 4-step runway and PR'd by like 2 feet. Because she was just slowing down when she got to the board. 6 steps was just too much for her, So yeah, I think it's important to know.
That's a big thing too with runway. I have a lot of athletes will come in, and I might have an upperclassman, or not even necessarily an upperclassman, but I might have somebody who's back to like 115 feet, and their approach is at like 85, and they're like, well, why is so and so running so far?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it doesn't matter how far you run. It matters where you are at the board.
100%. Yep.
Like you did a 10-step in the long jump, and I've only coached one other guy who did a 10-step in the long jump.
Right.
And that was your guys' running style.
Yep.
And where you were at the board mattered more than anything.
Exactly. Yep.
Like my best guy long jumper right now is on a 7-step approach.
That's
because
amazing.
he doesn't need a lot of time to get fast.
Yep.
And he's full speed the last 3 steps when he needs to be full speed.
And there's no point wasting those extra
No,
strides.
I mean, why would I have him take 6 more steps or whatever when he doesn't need them?
Yep.
So I mean, that's probably another thing too that I've changed over the years. I used to kind of do the same thing. We start off, everybody would have like a 6, and then we go to a 7, and then we go to an 8.
Yeah.
And now they're not all at the same spot.
Wow. Yeah.
I think my shortest person right now is a 7-step, but I have 7s, 8s, and 9s.
Yeah.
Just depending on the athlete. And that's, we talked about, really getting to know your athletes and kind of tweaking those things there too.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's good stuff. So next question. Do you test at all on like a regular basis, or do you do no testing, or like how do you manage, checking improvements?
So when we test our lifting stuff, obviously, beginning of the year, we test like every 6 weeks. And then in season, we don't do a lot of lifting testing because we don't really max out a lot then.
Okay.
I like to do standing long jumps like every other week.
Yeah. It's real power explosion.
Just to kind of see where they're at. Mm-hmm. And you can just tell, if they're feeling good. You can tell if a kid's kind of beat up.
Mm.
You can tell energy levels and stuff off of that, because if every week they go 9 feet, 8 inches roughly, or whatever they go, and this week we do 2 standing long jumps and they're at like 9 feet.
Yeah.
Well, there's something going on there.
Interesting.
Because, and they may say they feel good, but there's something, from an energy level or whatever, and we kind of got to just, look at what we're doing and see where they're at.
Yeah.
That might mean they have a pool day coming up, or they just need an extra recovery day, or, and you can just tell, or maybe they make a huge jump and now they PR by 4 inches or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Something worked.
I mean, I think standing long jumps tell you a lot about a jumper.
Yeah.
They don't tell you everything, because some kids are speed jumpers and they're never going to be real great at a standing long jump. But it can tell me, I'm not necessarily looking at, are they good at standing long jump?
Right. I'm
trying to compare what they did at standing long jump last time.
Yes. Yeah.
Or the last 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of see where those gains are. That's about the only real test I do.
Okay.
In season. I mean, we'll do flying 30s and more testing kind of in the fall.
Sure.
But in season, I don't do a lot of testing. Kind of use the meets as kind of testing, almost like in my head, like what they look like on the runway. And every once in a while, I'll time an approach.
Oh, okay.
I don't tell them what they're, like that's just for me, so I can kind of
Yep.
see, if a kid's 2 feet behind the board, I'll time his next approach and
Interesting.
kind of just see where he's at.
Yeah. That's cool.
Is he slow and that's why he's back? Like today he doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
or is he chopping his steps, or like because you can tell by like how fast he is on the runway
Yeah.
more so than just watching him
Huh.
to kind of see what the issue on the runway might be that day.
Right. Yeah. That's where like I just think it's so important to have a coach and to have a good coach, and one that like takes the time like you are doing to get to know them. And because there's so many variables, and you just like, if I was just jumping by myself and had no coach, like I would never know half of the things that I'm doing wrong.
Well, in triple jump, there's so many variables.
Oh man.
I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong in a triple jump.
Yeah. And do go wrong.
Well, and that's like, talking about when coaches are giving out all these different cues to a kid. It's like one thing, pick the most important thing and tell them that.
That's good advice. Yep. I think even though I had experience with you doing that correctly, I have a tendency to want to fix a few things instead of
it's
just
hard to
one.
not tell them more things.
Yeah.
Because you as a coach, you see all these things.
And you're like, well, if they do this one thing right, but everything else is still not broken.
Yeah. So I mean, you try to pick the most important thing, and then maybe after the competition, we have a little more in-depth conversation of like the other 3 or 4 things that I saw.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're like, well, why don't you tell me that? And it's like, well, because I wanted you to fix this one first. And then a lot of times if you fix that, it'll fix that next.
Have a little bit of a domino effect. Interesting. All right. Let's get into some more like fun type questions here. So what is a favorite moment from your 19 years of coaching? Like something that you cherish?
Favorite moment.
It doesn't have to be the favorite moment, but a favorite moment. Because I'm sure over 19 years, you got to have a few.
I mean, there's a lot. One of my favorite moments was probably, what year would that have been? I don't remember what year. We were at Ohio Wesleyan. It was in triple jump. It was actually when you won your first national title.
Oh, yeah. Okay. 2011.
But actually, you winning wasn't my favorite moment of that meet. So don't take this personally.
Yeah, that's all right. I was going to almost put like a nix. You can't say anything involving me.
Don't get me wrong. That was an awesome moment. But my favorite moment of that meet was when Kellen was sitting in 8th place going into his last jump. And I remember going down to talk to him before his last jump. And I just told him, I said, you have to go 15:10 on this jump. And he had never gone 15 meters before.
Yeah.
But 15:10 would have moved him from 8th to 4th. And we were in this huge team battle
against North Central.
I remember going down and I like grabbed him by the jersey and I was like, you have to go 15:10. And I just like pushed him and walked away.
Let's go.
That's how Kellen was. Like he would totally react to something like that.
For sure.
And he came down and he went 15:11 and took 4th.
Dude, that is so awesome.
And it was the only time he ever did a triple jump absolutely correct.
Oh man.
Like his arms and like everything was perfect.
Right.
He was just all fluid. Up and there was a slow clap. And I mean, it was just, it was awesome to just like see him like rise up to that and like put it all together when we needed it most as a team.
For sure. Yeah. No, I love that. That gets me all kinds of juiced up right now.
I mean, that would be one. I think of other ones. I mean, there's so many.
Right.
Probably my proudest moment as a coach was when we had 5 long jumpers go to the outdoor national meet in 2012. I mean, we had awesome. 5 guys over 720. Like, that's just insane.
That's stupid. Yeah.
I mean, obviously winning in all those national titles, like you had 4 and Kellen had 1 and Dom had 3. And,
yeah.
I mean, those are super fun moments, especially the first one. Like Kellen won his first one that year in indoors, and then your first one was that triple jump.
Yeah.
I mean, those are super fun, but I would say then probably the other one would been that same year, but in the long jump when you and Kellen were both All-Americans. 'Cause that's the
Oh
first
yeah.
time I had two All-Americans in the same event.
Yes.
And then that triple jump was the first time I got to give the awards out to more than one athlete. So it was
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Being the winning coach, I got to hand out the awards, but I got to give
Yep.
Kellen his award and you your award.
Oh man.
Like,
That'd be
so
a
that
cool
was
feeling.
super cool
Yeah.
to do that.
What athlete have you had that's had the biggest improvement, like from when they first started with you to when they were done?
I had a guy at Stout. He was a 38-foot high school triple jumper,
Sheesh.
which we all know for a guy is nothing special.
Yep.
And I remember his freshman year, he told me his goal was to score at conference.
Wow.
And in my head, I'm thinking, no way.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, just knowing the WIAC, and you got to go like 14 meters typically to score. You got to go like 44 feet for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
You're looking at 44, 45 feet to score any given year. And his PR was like 38-2. And I'm just like,
it's gonna be a long day.
Like, we gotta like set goals along the way to get there.
Yeah.
And his senior year, he went 45-4 and scored, was 8th place at the conference meet.
Dude, that's
so
awesome.
It took him his whole career, but he put on 7 feet 2 inches in the triple jump over 4 years.
Wow. That's legit.
I mean, you're probably a close second because what were you, 45 in high school?
Yeah.
And you went 51-3, so you were like over 6 feet.
6 feet, yeah. Which that was.
So, but he would have been the one, and he was one that, I mean, as a coach, you'd never like to let an athlete know that you're doubting them.
Right.
But he had a gigantic goal that I didn't think was attainable for him because I knew he had to put on like 6+ feet.
Yeah.
To even be in the conversation to score in the conference, knowing how good the conference was.
Right. Wait, you said this was early in your career?
This was like my second maybe third year coaching at Stout.
Okay.
Third or fourth year probably coaching at Stout.
So you said like, you kind of doubted him a little bit, but then after 4 years, he improved 7 feet. At that moment, were you just like, oh yeah, I can help anybody? Like no goal is too high anymore.
I don't know if I was like that, but
no, I don't mean from like a prideful standpoint, but I mean like you were like in your mind, you were probably like sort of confident. You're like, this guy's not gonna go 45 feet, 46
right.
feet.
I think more so it was like, it's possible if you have an athlete who that's what they want to do.
Okay.
Like, we can work together and get them there.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't see, and I was a young coach, and I didn't think that those type of improvements were even like possible.
Yeah.
Because I had been a track athlete and I never improved anywhere near that. And I had coached very long, and obviously 7 feet's not something that's going to happen a lot
for everyone. Yeah.
But to see like that athlete's determination, and like that was his goal coming in, and he stuck through, jumping 38, 39 feet as a freshman, and 42 as a sophomore, and like just slowly building up to it. And that was just super cool to see that an athlete can have that goal and that determination, and and he completely transformed. Like, he came in a weak little freshman guy that didn't really lift in high school, and but that he wanted to place in conference, and he was going to do it, and it was literally outdoor conference his senior year.
That's an epic story right there.
I mean, it was super fun.
Yeah.
And he's another one of those guys that I still see him every once in a while.
Oh, really?
And talk to him, and he'll every once in a while he'll like bring that up.
Yeah.
It's just fun to have that, that he had that kind of determination.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's where the true reward from like coaching comes from, is like being able to help somebody improve. It doesn't have to be 7 feet, but just like improving from where they were to, anything above that.
Well, and the cool
That'll be
thing
really
about it, like
satisfying.
him taking eighth place, he was as excited as if he had like won a national title.
Right. Yeah.
Like that was his national title.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
I
like,
love that.
I mean, I've coached 8 guys that have won national titles, and like that was his national title. I mean, I
Yeah.
talk to jumpers all the time about that. Like, not everybody's goal is to win a national title.
Yep.
Some people's goal is just to compete at conference or place at conference, and then your goals kind of grow. And his
100%.
goal, I mean, he reacted like he won a national title.
Yeah.
That was his national title. Like
Yep.
that was his number one goal, and he got it.
That's so cool.
So I mean, it's cool that you can see they don't have to be the top person to
Right.
like celebrate like they're winning a national title. It's
Yeah.
track's so different than any other sport in that way, is that everybody's version of winning is different.
Yes.
Because I mean, PRing is winning.
Yes.
No matter what you do in the event, like everybody's version in track and field of winning is different.
Man, that's really good.
Where like, basketball, you win the game or you don't. Like,
yeah.
But like in track, everybody can win at a meet, whether they actually win, based off of what their individual performance is and their goals and all that stuff. And that's what's so fun about track for me.
Yeah. No, same. That's awesome. So, if you could coach any athlete in the world to do triple jump or long jump, who would you pick? So, like a professional basketball player, professional soccer player.
Oh, not necessarily a track athlete.
Like you could pick LeBron James or whatever. Who would you pick? And it doesn't have to be current athlete; it could be of all time. I asked Kenny Harrison this, and he picked Dennis Rodman.
Really?
Yeah.
To triple jump or just to triple or long?
Triple or long, whichever one you want. But I feel like triple jump would be more of like a challenge.
I mean, long jump, I would love to have coached Michael Jordan, just to see how far he could have gone based on like, the free throw line dunks and all that kind of stuff, how high he was.
Yeah.
I think it would have been crazy to see how far he could have long jumped. And the way he could get off the ground.
Yeah. Give him any sort of sprint training.
Yeah. So I think to like coach him in the long jump would have been crazy.
Okay. Definitely.
Triple jump. Actually, I'd like to Bolt.
You say Bolt? Oh, in the triple?
With that kind of speed, I feel like he'd be so efficient on his ground contacts.
Yeah.
That he'd be kind of like Jonathan Edwards.
Okay, right.
So quick off the ground, and he's so ridiculously fast.
So fast.
That I feel like he could go like 65 feet.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine like 9.5 on the runway?
Yeah.
Super efficient ground contacts through his phases.
It would look like something out of a video game.
I mean, he's a track athlete, so like one that's not a track athlete. I'm trying to think. I mean, I think it'd be fun to coach Bo Jackson in anything.
Oh my
just
gosh.
An athletic freak.
Yeah. That would have been sweet. Do you know, like, how fast was Bo Jackson? Like, we know he was fast, but like, did they ever have like?
I don't know. I don't know, like sprint times or even like 40 times, but like he was so fast.
Just a monster. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Bolt in the triple jump would be crazy because people look at him like he's a skinny sprinter, but he was strong.
He was super strong. Yeah.
And he was so efficient on the ground that I feel like he would have been just as efficient in triple jump phases with that speed. I mean, I don't know if anybody could handle 9.5 speed through a triple jump without rotating forward and crashing and burning a couple times.
Muscles, destroying.
But once you figured it out, I think it would have been just unbelievable.
That would have been nasty. So following up that question then, do you think that the 61-foot barrier will be broken ever and in the near future?
I think it definitely will be someday.
Okay.
I think that the world record's in jeopardy soon.
Same.
I think the guys out there now, like the Christian Taylors and the Will Clays, and I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys
Pichardo,
right
yeah,
now that are
yep,
just crazy. And
yep,
the way we're seeing all of these like world records and things going,
yeah,
I think that will go. I don't know about the long jump one. The long jumpers right now are so far away from 895.
yes, yeah,
I mean, they celebrate like 840s now, which to
yeah,
me is like, yeah, that's a good jump. But
yeah,
back when like Carl Lewis and those guys were jumping, they were regularly going way farther.
like
I think
880s, yeah.
so. I think Powell's long jump is safe for a long time.
Okay, yeah,
Just because I mean, even like the big time D1 guys are only jumping like 820.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
think there's so many guys in the triple jump right now. I mean, the U.S. guys are crazy good, and now
right,
I mean, I just think the triple jump is going to
yeah,
the next couple of years. I think somebody's going to break Edwards' record.
yeah.
I think you're going to see like an 1840.
1840, okay, wow,
I mean,
legal,
what
right?
is it?
Yeah.
1828, right? Is the
29,
record?
29 is the
29.
record, and then he went 43 wind dated.
So I think you're going to see somebody go in 1830s soon,
Yeah.
maybe 1840s and break that. I mean,
Wow.
Taylor and Clay and those guys have been in the 18, teens,
Right.
not that far, So
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen.
Yep. And they've
And all the new technology. I mean,
right.
the shoe technology and the distance events is eventually going to make its way to the rest of the events. I think.
Yeah. You would think,
They're gonna figure out those carbon plate shoes and other.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because it's like then you kind of have to have a little bit of an asterisk, like if they do it.
I don't love that,
Yeah.
but I mean, the distance events, it's making a huge impact, and
Right.
and technology is always going to be a part of it. I mean,
Yep.
obviously the sprint spikes now versus the older ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always going to be an advantage.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I think I don't know who it's going to be, but there's so many good ones right now.
Yeah.
That somebody's going to hit one, and when you get all those guys in the same venue at like an Olympics or something, and they start feeding off each other, and
Yep.
you know how that is when you get a competition that's full of good jumpers, and now even when your opponent jumps big, it like sets the whole field off.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's going to happen.
I think that's probably what's been missing because I think anytime people have gotten close, like in Beijing 2015 when Taylor went 1821, like the next closest I think was like 1760 that day.
Yeah.
It's like if he would have had somebody else hitting 18s, like that somebody would have responded.
You're going to get those guys in the same venue at like an Olympics or a world championship right now because there's so many good ones.
Yep.
You get even like 4 or 5 of those guys in the same competition.
Yeah.
I think that's when it's going to happen.
For sure.
You get that little bit of a tailwind that they need.
Yep.
The 1.9 that's just legal for them.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. That's
not
awesome.
The 4.0 that we got to live with.
That's crazy. Have they changed it or is it still 4.0?
It's still 4.0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. And by kind of, I mean really nice. How has COVID affected, Division III track and field coaching, morale, everything?
I mean, the biggest thing obviously is we've had our last 3 national meets canceled, which is just sucks. I mean, there's no other way to say it than it sucks.
And there's literally nothing you can do about it.
That's the biggest thing that it's affected. And obviously last year we were at the national meet when they canceled.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then, outdoor got canceled, and this year they canceled it, fairly early, like we knew. That's the biggest thing. As far as like day to day, it hasn't affected us a lot. Outside of, they're wearing masks, but we're not wearing them for everything we do.
Okay.
But like, their general warm up, but when we're like really exerting ourselves, they're not wearing them.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest like day to day thing. The other thing is I think it's affected our athletes from a mental health standpoint a lot.
Oh.
just because of all the uncertainty. And we've had, off and on, we've had student athletes that have been in quarantine or isolation because they've had it or they've been around someone who had it.
Yeah.
And I think the ones who haven't had it but were contact traced into like quarantines, I think it's been a huge emotional strain on them.
Okay.
Because they're like, well, I don't even have it. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere, and I feel fine. Like I never got it. And,
Yeah.
And earlier in the fall, that quarantine time was 14 days.
Yeah.
Now it's down to 8.
Okay.
So like that's better.
That's a big difference. Yeah.
But I think that just a lot of that stuff has been a big strain on them. We, as at Wartburg, we've eliminated a lot of our breaks, like spring break and things like that, because they don't want people traveling and then coming back to campus to potentially spread it.
Yeah.
So I think not having like those breaks where people can just like get away and kind of refresh.
Yeah. Yep.
I think they've gone through a lot mentally and emotionally with this, even though physically not a lot of them have like had it. And the few that we've had that had it, had relatively minor symptoms and things. We haven't had anybody who got, like really sick. And
right.
So I just think it's been a kind of an emotional toll on them. And especially the top end kids have really struggled with not having national meets. And I mean, because as an athlete, that's
sorry,
like
I gotta cut you off again. Bo's, I think he's got like a stuffy nose, and so like he can't breathe, and so I think it freaks him out. I'm gonna go just like rock him quick. We'll take another quick intermission and get back to this.
You're good.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
A few moments later.
He's having a hard time breathing, so I'm gonna take him downstairs and try to suck out some of the snot and stuff. So I'll maybe call you back, or I mean, if you want to stay on, you can stay on. It's getting a little long recording wise, but
you want to just like finish up tomorrow evening or something?
That would work for me.
Then you can just be a dad right now.
Yes, I mean, I don't mind. Like, this shouldn't take too long. Oh, who is that? Can you say hi? Can you wave? I'll go wave.
Why don't we just log back on tomorrow at like 7:30?
Perfect.
Sounds good, man. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep, see you, Kohl.
3 days later.
Well, it's a different day. Same topics. All right. I have a question, and that kind of segues into another question. So we'll just get right into it. Do you track attempts at a meet? Like, do you have a clipboard and like, write down each athlete's attempts or take notes or anything? Or do you just watch and just coach?
I don't actually like write anything down.
Okay.
I try to take as much video as possible.
Okay.
And then I can go back and kind of take some notes off of the video.
Okay.
Most meets for me, because I coach now the long jump, triple jump, high jump, and pole vault.
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't possibly be able to like keep track of every jump because unfortunately I missed some attempts.
Right. Yeah.
Just because, I mean, most meets the schedule works out where there's probably only 2 events going on at once, but every once in a while there might be 3.
Yep.
So as far as just being able to like record everyone, I'm just hoping I can actually see everyone. At some meets.
Right.
And I mean, part of that too is just kind of working. My athletes understand that that's going to happen.
Yep.
So, throughout the week of practice and things, we're kind of trying to prepare them to be able to help each other.
Yeah.
They know that I'm not always going to be over there.
Right.
And my men and women have gotten really good at, when the women are competing, the men are kind of hanging around to help them and vice versa, just because, I mean, they know that I'm not going to see every attempt, even though I really attempt to see obviously as many as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So when I am over there, I'm trying to get video, or the athletes are videoing each other. So if I miss one, I can walk over and,
Yeah.
watch the video and at least try to give them a tip if I missed one.
Okay, gotcha. That's crazy. I didn't know that you were coaching high jump and pole vault. I knew you have done some high jump coaching in the past, like with Dom and stuff, but
Yeah.
didn't know.
And pole vault was new for me since I got down here. So
Nice, sweet.
I've used Doug Geiwitz and Jeremiah Burrish and Josh Buckholz and
There you
my
go.
brother, who all have quite a bit of pole vault and pole vault coaching experience. I've used those four quite a bit for resources over the last 6 years. That's for sure.
Nice. Yeah. Do you feel like you've started to get a grasp of it? I mean, obviously it's a big event, but
I definitely am way more comfortable than I was obviously 6 years ago when I started it, but it's definitely my weakest event as a coach, just because I didn't do that event. I mean, I did the other three at one point, and I've coached the other three for like 19 years.
Yeah.
And pole vault, I mean, I've watched pole vault a lot growing up around my brother, and at lacrosse, I wrote a lot of the training for the vaulters, but I didn't physically coach the like technical parts of the pole vault.
Sure.
The runway and the approach and the takeoff was easy because it's the same as the long jump.
Right.
But the in-air stuff, I mean, I've definitely gotten much more familiar. My first couple of years, it was really frustrating because I just didn't see things like at all. Like
sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
And I've gotten to where I can see things a lot better, and definitely a much better pole vault coach than I was.
Right.
But that's probably the event right now that I'm working the hardest on, because it's frustrating when I don't have an answer.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, in any event, it's not like I have the answer all the time in the other three, but I have the answer a lot more often in the other three.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's been one of the big things I've, really tried to work on, is learning more about pole vault as much as I can. And
that's interesting.
And still learning the other events too, because I mean, I'm never going to know everything about the other events, but
100%.
That's the one event that frustrates me the most, because sometimes I just don't see things. And I mean, most of my vaulters have more experience with pole vault, more years into it and stuff than I do. So
that's crazy.
It's been a very interesting learning curve.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Picking up an event after, 13 years of coaching and a number of years of being an athlete, and then just to have to learn a new event. So.
Right. Has learning a new event helped you at all in coaching the horizontal jumps at all? I don't know how specifically, but just curious if you're having.
I don't know if directly but it's made me kind of look at just overall coaching and cues.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And things like that, and just learning different cues for the vault, and really trying to find as many ways to have somebody explain things to me in the vault.
Yes.
Where it has kind of opened me up to trying to explain things in the other three jumps differently than I had been explaining them.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because, like, those guys that I go to for the vault would say something to me, and each one of them could be talking about the same thing and say it different.
Right.
But I picked up on it from, one of them saying something different.
Right.
So it's helped me to kind of look at saying things in the other jumping events different.
Yeah.
Kind of like we talked about earlier with the left, right drill.
Yep.
Calling it cycle bounds now.
Yeah.
It's a different way to say the same drill, and one athlete gets it when you say it one way versus another. So that's probably the biggest way that coaching the vault has helped me, is just learning that sometimes I just have to say something a little differently for a different athlete to understand what point I'm trying to get across.
No, that's awesome. That's exactly what I was looking for. Cool. All right. So going back to the prior question, though, whether or not you track attempts at a meet or use a clipboard or things like that, what kind of technology do you use for coaching as a whole? Like from being at a meet to like when you're at home analyzing jumps or whatever, like what kind of technology do you use, if any?
I mean, the biggest thing I use is the Huddle Technique app,
Okay. Yep.
which has got an awesome, frame by frame slow motion.
Yeah.
It's on my phone, so I always have it on me at meets. So
Mhm.
whenever I can pull it out and get video, and I mean, I'll try to get as much as I can on my phone, and then my athletes are taking video on their phone, and we have I guess we created like a group, so all those
Oh,
videos
yep.
can kind of be shared on this, so I can basically see all of them on my phone, whether they were recorded on my phone or not.
That's awesome.
So, being able to watch them. And this year in college, we can actually watch video. We can actually show it to our athlete at a meet.
Oh, at the meet? Oh, good.
They've changed that rule this year. If there's the smaller meets, it's not really been enforced as far as where you can watch video. But
Okay.
the bigger meets, there has to be a designated coaching box. And if you're in the designated coaching box, you can watch a video and your athlete can see it as well.
Why does it matter where they watch it?
I don't know. Why did it matter ever that you couldn't watch it?
I don't know that either. That was stupid.
I don't do a lot of video at meets as far as like video. I shouldn't say I don't do a lot of video. As far as like if I was like recording you taking a jump, I wouldn't show you the jump in between and be like, hey, you're doing this.
Right.
I like to rely more on just the cues,
Yep.
That I've established with, my athletes on the things we're working on more so than, showing them a video.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying too before. It was like, you only want to give them one or two things after a jump anyway.
Right. So, I mean, I don't really even want them to see the whole jump because a lot of them will tend to overanalyze it.
Right.
Where I want to just pick out the one thing that I think they need to do rather than them seeing the whole jump and they notice like 4 things.
Right.
Most of the time if I'm watching it at a meet with an athlete, it's after the competition's over and, all the jumps are over and I'm just sitting around talking to one of them and we want to like look at a video or something. But I would prefer they didn't see the video at a meet just because I think it tends to lead to, kind of overanalyzing rather than me giving them the one cue that I think is the most important.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely where I think having a good coach with a good eye makes all the difference in the world. Cool. So do you do any other sort of like analysis or whatever of like distances or, how they're progressing over a season or anything? Or do you kind of just try to like keep it as simple as possible?
I mean, I keep track of that. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I put their marks in each week so that I can easily look at.
Yep.
Just without having to go to like TFERS and look up each individual athlete. I have a spreadsheet where I just update it every week so I can kind of see where we're at each week. I'm also kind of a numbers guy that I just remember numbers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I can think back even like coaching you, but now it's been like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can still like probably list off most of the exact marks that like you had at certain meets. And that's just always been kind of how my brain works.
Nice. Yeah.
Without having to like look back a lot of times, I can sort of just know what they jumped and know the numbers.
Right.
Thing with me at meets though is a lot of times if I miss a jump, then I don't know that number. But kind of once I look at results and stuff, that's kind of always been how my brain's kind of worked. Like, I'm just going through the numbers in my head. I can probably list off like a bunch of stuff like what you jumped when I coached. So.
Nice. All right. What was
I don't even know if you can do that, but
I can do some of them. But yeah, I'm sure as a coach.
You want to quiz me now?
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. What is my best jump ever in long jump?
774.
774.
At Nationals at Lacrosse.
Which jump was it? Do you know that?
Oh, which jump?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly which jump. I couldn't tell you exactly what jump, but
I don't actually know off the top of my head, but I think it was jump 4. Because
I think it was in finals.
Yeah, I think it was in finals. Because I know I had I fouled a bomb after that one by like this much.
Yeah, and the
And
official told me it was 790s.
oh my gosh. Yeah. And then I think so maybe it was either jump 4 or 5, but regardless. All
Your
right.
best triple jump was 1563, your first jump at indoor nationals that year.
Ooh, that one was
That's my
probably
favorite Isaac Vasquez moment of your entire career.
Same.
The national anthem while you're on the runway and then the crowd clapping behind you.
Yes.
It's the only time I ever saw you like turn around and hype the crowd up.
Dude.
I remember standing next to Eric Scheffner, the whitewater coach, and I just said, if he marks this jump, it's going to be really big. And it was school record, first meet of the competition. You just said, come get me.
That was the most like Kellen like that I probably felt. Like I was just like juiced up, and plus I was pissed because I like didn't jump well in the long jump the day before.
Yeah.
I was just like everything, and the moment was right. It was just like it was too cool.
That's my all-time favorite moment of yours.
Yeah, that was sweet. All right. Let's go to some sort of related, very important but unrelated topics here. All right. In your experience, which meet that you've ever been to has had the best food? Like the concessions?
The concessions?
Yeah, concessions or food that you eat consistently when you go to that meet, whether it's at like a local restaurant or something, but which meet do you look forward to for the food itself?
Usually like a national meet, because generally the coach's hospitality is usually really good.
Yeah.
And it's free for one, which is always nice.
Yep.
Anytime you can get free food is always a bonus. When I was coaching at Stout, we used to go to McAllister a lot in St. Paul.
Okay.
And this place has since gone out of business, but they used to have this little like malt and burger joint that was like a half a block from the track, and we always went there.
Oh.
And it doesn't exist anymore, I found out, because our men's soccer coach now is from McAllister, and I asked him about it one time.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what I was talking about, and he said they went out of business.
That sucks.
Otherwise, I'm trying to think of, I mean, you know me, I'm a food guy. I'm not real picky about food anywhere, but
right.
I can't really think of like one place that was like, we always loved to go. I mean, we had a lot of home meets at lacrosse, and there's a ton of places I love to go there.
Yeah. I suppose the only real tradition was probably like donuts with Phil.
I mean, the big tradition wasn't even like, we used to do the Fazies breakfast when I was at lacrosse.
Yeah, that's true.
Fazies for breakfast a lot.
Yep.
Or like you just said, the Phil White's at sausage donuts.
Ooh.
Indoor nationals tradition.
Sir.
He actually, I think it was the second year after I left, he actually brought me a sausage donut to the national meet indoors.
Wow, what a guy. What a guy. That's awesome. All right. So what, in your experience, has been your favorite coaching venue? Like where like you felt like they treated the coaches as good as the athletes or better?
My favorite coaching venue. I mean, again, that's probably national meets.
Just any national meet?
I mean, that's the one they really, take care of us with hospitality room and coaching boxes. And,
gotcha.
Every other meet, you kind of just go where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've gotten to know so many coaches over the years that kind of wherever we go, you're treated well just because you know everybody there.
Yeah.
But, national meets is kind of that one meet where they like have like special things for the coaches.
Sure.
Hospitality area. And you get marked off the best viewing spot in the joint.
Yeah.
You're usually right by the pit. And
yeah.
I mean, most any national meet, they treat you really well.
Okay. So which national meet then had the best one, or the best atmosphere, or the best perks?
The best food at an indoor national meet was 2012 and 2015 what year were we in Grinnell? 2012. indoor
Okay.
track.
Oh yeah.
The food was like a buffet. I mean, it was like hot food
Really?
all the time, and
Oh man.
um, but I mean, when we hosted at home in 13 was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, at lacrosse, and then my first year at Wartburg, we hosted outdoor nationals as well.
Oh really? Okay.
In 2016, and obviously it's a lot of work to host, but
Mhm.
it's pretty awesome to be at home for nationals.
Sure. Yeah.
And especially like in 13, we won at home, so that was
Oh,
super
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
We did not win in 16 at home, but it was still cool to to be at home, and
Yeah.
just traveling's fun, but sometimes it's just cool to be in your own comfort zone and
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
where where you know everything and you're just familiar with it.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely a whole different um like impact on you mentally as an
And I
athlete.
think you're really lucky to have gotten to compete. Your last collegiate meet was in your home stadium.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. I remember
After having experienced a whole bunch of national meets, in a bunch of different other places, which
right.
it's cool, but to be able to do it at home.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome. Yeah. And I think it was even better too at, my senior year when I had kind of like improved to be at my best then, instead of it being like my freshman year and I was like not doing well at home. I mean,
Right.
not doing well, like obviously getting All-American as a freshman was really awesome, but I just mean like placing 8th versus placing 1st is like a totally different thing.
And then getting thrown into the 4x1.
Yeah. That was crazy. But the other cool thing was I got to go fishing the morning of nationals. I don't know if you knew that.
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
Kenan and I woke up. We got up at like 5:30 or 6, and we went fishing for like an hour.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
It was awesome.
All right. You're not doing that at an away national meet, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe,
well,
but,
I was gonna say,
but
yeah,
probably not.
Dude, it's a good thing that there weren't any like streams or anything close in California, because Hazy and I for sure would have gone and done something.
Hazy would have disappeared.
He would have went duck hunting.
He wouldn't even showed up for the meet because he'd have found like a hot fishing spot or something.
Yeah, exactly. He would have texted me and be like, "Hey, coach, yeah, sorry." All right. Let's do a little game called Overrated, Underrated. So
okay,
you can choose. There's actually 3 options: overrated, underrated, or properly rated. And if you want to, you can just kind of like blitz through them, or you can stop and give a reason why it's overrated or underrated. So, all right. First things first, the clap. And I'm not referring to the STD.
The slow clap.
The slow clap.
Depending on the situation.
Okay.
Like we referred to, like I talked about my favorite year moment.
Yeah.
It was highly underrated.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because of the situation and because you hit a huge jump, and
yeah.
So it was highly underrated.
Right.
I've seen situations where a certain, where jumpers will do the slow clap and then maybe they run through the run. They don't even attempt to jump.
Oh, yeah.
Because they get it all hyped up. In those cases, it's highly overrated.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends on the moment.
Mm.
And sort of what happens on the jump. Because if you get a great slow clap and then they hit a huge jump, it's underrated.
Okay, sure.
There's also sometimes where the slow clap is mutilated and it's a really bad slow clap.
Yes, yeah.
And then it's way overrated. So I like a really good slow clap in the right moment is highly underrated.
Perfect. I would agree with that. All right. Track and field as a whole, overrated or underrated?
To me, it's way, way, way underrated.
Yeah.
I also kind of think track is kind of a love it or hate it sport, though.
Probably.
For like the general population. If you're not a track person, I think track meets would probably be super boring if you're not a track person.
Yeah, yeah.
But for me, track and field as a whole is highly, highly, highly underrated.
Nice.
But I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a track coach and I love it. So
Right. Yeah,
if I said
exactly.
anything else, I think you'd look at me funny.
Yeah,
Like,
that's very true.
Track and field's been my life for 20 plus years. So
Yeah. Right on. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other sports where like if you asked the people in it whether it's overrated or underrated, I'm sure most of them would say underrated, but
I feel like a lot of people in other sports, though, would say a lot of other sports could be underrated. I
yeah,
don't think a lot of people, if you're not a track person, I don't think you're going to say track is underrated.
right, right.
And I think a lot of other people would say, like, I'm not a football player or coach, but I think the NFL and football is underrated because I'm a big football fan.
Okay, yeah, yep.
I don't think if you're not like a part of track, there's probably not a lot of big track and field fans.
Yeah, apart from the Olympics every 4 years.
You know, right. So I just think it's just a different
Yeah.
way most people look at it.
Yep, that's true. Good answer. All right. So then to kind of drill that one down a little bit, Division 3 track and field as a whole, or not as a whole, but Division 3 track and field, overrated, underrated?
Oh, way underrated.
Way underrated.
I think a lot of people look down on Division 3 just because we're Division 3.
Yep. No scholarships.
It's just different. I mean, I've never coached in any other level, but I got a lot of friends and people I know that have that.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of person.
Yeah.
Not saying there's not people in all the other divisions that like do it because they love it.
Right.
But everyone in D3 does it because they love it. Because there's not a scholarship tied to it. Like there's nothing else tied to it. You just do it because you want to do track and field.
Yeah.
And as far as like the talent to D3 is way underrated.
Ooh, okay.
Like, there is some serious talent in Division 3 that I just think gets overlooked because it's Division 3.
Yep.
And it shouldn't.
Yep. 100%. 100%. All right. Next one. The Chrysler Town and Country. And I know this seems out of the blue, but this is the van that we always used to rent at national meets. So overrated, underrated, Chrysler Town and Country.
Oh, you know it's underrated. Yeah. I'm not a minivan guy, and I maybe won't ever own one, but if I had to own a minivan, it would be a Chrysler Town and Country. Had some good times driving one of those around for track meets and stuff.
Yeah, they got some juice.
For sure.
I remember we were pulling out of the rental place or whatever. And I don't remember if you were driving or Phil was driving, but like it was the first time I'd ever been in a town and country. And like it was like merging into oncoming traffic. And I'm like watching, like waiting for him to just like, find a gap. And it was either you or him. You just floored it and just took off in front of everybody. We had like 10 guys in the van. And I was like, holy crap.
That definitely could have been me or Phil. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we were each driving a van and both did that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you guys were probably racing at the time.
That's possible.
That's
funny you say that's kind of an out of the blue thing, but not for a track coach. Okay. That's like rental vans is like a thing for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Have you driven other rental vans that are also as powerful?
No, that's by far the best.
The best one. Okay.
They're the best ones.
Nice. So underrated, town and country. Awesome.
Waiting for you to give me something I don't think is underrated.
I know, that's what I was just, all my list is pretty much, but all right, we'll keep going then. Home meets, overrated or underrated?
Depends.
Okay.
Underrated in the fact that I think it's awesome for the athletes to compete at home. Mm-hmm. I will say slightly overrated in that sometimes meet setup and cleanup sucks.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to host a home meet, so that's why I think it can be slightly overrated. But I don't think it gets any better than competing at home if you have a good facility and you can have your whole team there, and the atmosphere at home I would say is underrated. But the physical aspects of hosting a meet can be a little overrated.
Sure. Okay, that's fair.
having just hosted a conference meet and then this elite meet 2 weekends in a row, I can tell you the atmosphere for our athletes was underrated.
Okay.
And cleanup and setup stuff for me was a little overrated.
Aren't you guys a private school? You should hire people to do
Yeah,
that.
right. We are a private school, but we ain't hiring them for that. That's why they hired me.
Yeah, there you go. Literally in the small print on your job title. Clean up after every meet. All right, next one. Good weather for a meet. Overrated or underrated?
Very underrated.
Underrated. Okay. I'm surprised you said that.
I think that weather is a mindset
Okay.
more than anything.
So maybe you're
so for me as an athlete, I didn't care what the weather was.
okay.
Um,
So overrated then.
no, I think the weather is underrated. Or we're looking at it. Yes.
Good weather. Good weather.
I would say yes, overrated.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
I had to go into my head, but I think it's overrated. I think
Gotcha.
weather's a mindset.
There we go. Okay.
I loved competing in bad weather because I knew it was going to mess with my opponents.
Right. Yep.
And I think that as a coach, I think that it messes with more. I think it doesn't mess with like our athletes as much because we kind of prepare them for it. And we talk about
mindset.
If the weather is bad during a practice, we still practice outside. Like they're ready good. Because I coach in the Midwest. I've always coached in the Midwest. We're gonna have bad weather meets for sure. And they need to know how to handle it. So I think it's overrated. Good weather overrated, bad weather underrated. Me as a coach, I want good weather because I'm
you're sitting in it
for 8 hours. But as an athlete, I just think it's a mindset.
For sure.
Bad, whatever your mindset is.
Yeah, it's almost an advantage at that point.
I don't think weather ever bothered you.
No, but again,
I saw you jump real far in a pit that had snow in it one time.
Yeah, but I think it's exactly to your point though, is the coaching. Like you guys kind of drilled it into our minds, it's got to be 70 and sunny because everybody's jumping in it, so it doesn't matter.
Right, you're not getting out of it unless you're a pole vaulter. You get to go inside.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I kind of like that once in a while as a coach now. But
right, yeah. Nice.
I finally get to know what Doug Geiwitz was talking about all those years.
There you go. All right. As a coach, sunscreen, overrated or underrated?
For me personally, very underrated. I'm a big sunscreen guy because I burn very easily. So probably a lot of times it's overrated because I forget to put it on.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's definitely should be underrated for me.
Gotcha. Nice. All right.
And I think for the athletes, it's probably something they should have too. But I'm being selfish on this question and thinking about myself.
No, the question was directed towards coaching.
You've seen me with some pretty good sunburns, so.
Oh yeah.
My problem's not putting it on the first time. My problem is reapplying.
Reapplication, huh?
When you're out there for 8 hours, when you put it on once, it doesn't really do much.
That's the key. Reapplication is underrated. Preparation. So getting ready for a meet, what is in your bag? What do you bring to a meet?
Are we at an indoor meet or an outdoor meet? Because it differs a lot.
Yeah, let's do outdoor because I think there'll be a lot more.
Well, outdoor meets, I bring 2 bags.
Oh, okay.
I bring 1 bag that has rain gear and cold gear in it because, like I said just a minute ago, in the Midwest, you never know.
Yeah.
You could have a meet that starts off cold, ends up warm, and in the middle it rains, and then it ends up cold again.
Yeah.
So I bring a duffel bag that has waterproof shoes, warmer boots. Waterproof everything, cold gear that I just have with me because you just never know.
Right.
And then I have my backpack, which has lots of snacks. My sunscreen, which I sometimes use and sometimes don't.
Yeah.
And then I always have a meet program or heat sheets of some sort and a schedule.
Okay.
A phone charger, usually.
Gotcha.
Usually a portable one.
Like a portable one. Okay.
What else do I have in my bag? That's kind of the main things.
I'd say you covered most
Headphones
of it.
usually for bus rides, if
Okay.
we're on a bus ride. But
Yeah.
indoor meets are easy. It's just one little backpack. But outdoor meets, you got to pack a little bit more.
Right. Look like you're going on a trip then.
Be prepared for everything.
Yeah, that's right. What's your go-to rain gear?
Right now, I actually have a really nice set of Under Armour rain gear.
Okay.
When
Top and bottom?
Yep. It was probably, I don't know, my second year here. Our athletic training had a deal with Under Armour, and they were ordering rain gear, so I had them order me a set.
Yeah.
It was like $200. They're like $100 a piece, but it's really good.
Well worth it, I'm sure.
It's paid for itself a few times.
Yeah, I bet.
There's nothing worse than being wet all day as a coach or an athlete.
Yeah. But as a coach, more so because you're literally not moving and like have to rely on
for
that.
me, when it's rainy out, I feel for the athletes more because they have to like take even if they have rain gear,
Sure.
they can't wear it while they compete, and you're just going to get wet. Where me, if it's cold or rainy, I've been doing it long enough that I've put together a pretty good stash of warm gear, cold gear stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah. That's fair. Speaking of stash, will you ever shave just a stash? Or are you like a no mustache guy?
I'm not necessarily against it. I haven't shaven my full goatee. I couldn't even tell you the last time. I trim it all the time, but
what would it take for you to shave into a mustache?
Just a mustache?
Yeah, just a mustache. A nice dirty mustache.
I mean, right now it would be kind of dirty. Been a while since I shaved. I don't know. It wouldn't take a lot, probably.
You could. It looks like you could have a pretty solid handlebar too. Like,
yeah, it's all right here. My problem is here with growing a beard. It doesn't fill in.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's all right. You don't need that for a mustache.
No, but I'd like to have a beard.
If you let it go long enough, you probably.
It probably wouldn't take much for me to shave because I know that my goatee would grow back.
Oh, okay.
I'd only miss it for a little while.
Perfect. Plus, it's COVID anyway, so you don't see as many people. You should just.
Well, and with my mask on, that's why I don't
yeah.
shave as often because you got a mask on all the time.
There you go. That's awesome.
I'm very lazy with the shaving during COVID. That's for sure.
I've heard that as a common.
Especially
thing.
like last spring when like you weren't even like leaving the house. It was like I used to anything? Like, go once a week, cut my hair and shave guy, and that was like I'd go like a month.
Don't even put pants on. Like
it was kind of nice to just. I missed track a lot during that span though, but
I'm sure, yeah. Did they canceled it like right? Oh no, that was right before indoor nationals, right?
We were at the indoor national meet.
Oh.
In North Carolina when they canceled indoors, and then they canceled the rest of the season.
That would have sucked.
And then before I got back to campus, because my sister lives like 40 minutes from where indoor nationals was last year, and so I had planned to stay out there a couple days.
Oh.
But by the time I got back, our campus had been shut down and sent home.
Wow.
By the time I got back, all but like a handful of my athletes were already gone.
Yeah.
So I got to see like 4 kids when I got back of my jumpers before they like left.
Yeah, peace.
And I didn't see them again
a year.
The end of August when they moved back to campus.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. So
it was the worst team meeting ever.
I can't imagine.
To tell your team, some of them seniors, first time at nationals, that they don't get to compete.
Right.
And while we were in that meeting, we found out that outdoors was canceled too. So you're telling these seniors, oh, you don't get to compete at nationals, and by the way, your career's over too.
Yeah.
Can you imagine at indoor nationals your senior year, if you at North Central, if we'd have told you nationals is done and your career's over? I
don't know what I would have done.
It was brutal.
That would have sucked.
There was a lot of tears in that meeting for sure.
Yeah. Man.
Hopefully we never have to do that again.
Right. Yep. Hopefully things get taken care of here. And Yeah, big time. That was good. But all right, so to wrap it up, what are some tips you would give to like a new coach coaching the jumps specifically? Yeah, we'll start with that.
I would say the number one tip I would give anybody who's coaching is to try to always stay on the level. Meaning don't get too high, don't get too low as a coach. I think my personality lends to that really well.
Definitely.
I'm not saying that you don't get like excited when your jumper hits a big mark.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But I think if you show like a little too much, like if you show that you're nervous or show your frustration a little too much, I think your athletes feel that and feed off of it normally in a negative way.
Okay.
I know I've talked to a few young coaches, and that was always my number one pointer to them, because a lot of times they would be super fired up on a big jump and then almost like doing this kind of stuff on a bad jump, and
right.
And the athletes see that.
Yeah.
And I think if you can always sort of appear like calm and relaxed, because I'm not always calm on the inside.
Right. I'm sure.
When it's nationals and conference, like I'm nervous, especially the first jump, and if somebody goes foul or
right,
that kind of stuff. Like, but I try to never show that. So I think just trying to be like as level as you can be.
Sure.
And obviously you're going to celebrate big moments, and you're going to be upset at the end with, give your athlete a hug or whatever, and that kind of stuff. But I think just being kind of on the level is a huge thing for the athletes to feed off of, so they don't get any like extra negative energy. I think a lot of them create negative energy for themselves sometimes anyways. So anything that, you can do there. And I mean, I think that's one of my biggest strengths as a coach, is just kind of trying to keep them on a level and work kind of the mental side of things more than the physical side of things.
Right.
And as far as the physical side of things, I think you just have to develop a relationship with your athletes so that they trust whatever it is you're doing for a workout.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's something that maybe maybe it's not even a great workout, but if your athlete like completely trusts you, they're still going to get something out of that workout because they're completely bought in.
Right. Yep.
I mean, I've done bad workouts as a coach. Everybody has.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you're like committed to it and like locked into it, your jumpers are still going to like see some benefit to it because you're believing in it and they believe in you. So I think that relationship leads to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I coach, and too, the relationships are the biggest thing. I mean, that's how we're doing this right now, because we built the relationship when I was your coach. I mean, that's the big thing for me. And that's the stuff I talk about all the time, not even the like actual training aspects of stuff.
Right.
Because I think that stuff just comes with being around the sport and wanting to like learn the sport. You kind of figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
Talked about that the other day with basically stealing workouts from, other coaches, because that's one thing track coaches don't care about. Like, I would give any coach that asked me for my training plan, I would gladly give them, here you go. Like, you can have it, but you got to figure out how to like implement it and get your athletes to buy into it. And like, that's the part about it's coaching, not just here, I got this workout, what do I do with it?
Right. Man, that's spot on. If I could tie that up right there, wrap it in a bow. Man, good deal. Coach Kohl coming through with the gems.
I try.
Right. That's all we ask, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, it's been really great catching up. I hope we get to do it soon.
For sure, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time and giving us all your insights from all 19 years, you old man.
Hopefully I got 19 more.
Hey, that's right. Cool. All All right. Take care.